Hello, my name is Stephanie Locke. This is my Module 8 Legal Aspects and Teacher Evaluations. Please forgive my voice. I have been fighting a virus that it's not strep, it's not bronchitis, but my voice keeps going in and out. So if we begin with the articles for this module to review, the first article, Teacher Evaluation Heads to Court. This one was from Education Weekly, and it discussed multiple lawsuits that have been filed because of teacher evaluations. There's many different reasons, like they were challenging how the new systems were put in place. They challenged how grading components were used in the evaluation, student test scores to judge all teachers, even if you were a teacher that didn't necessarily have a tested subject. And then another thing, they would take aim at teacher tenure and the baseline that they would use to judge teachers on. They claimed that it was not fair, and so they took it to court. In this particular article, they talked about 7 states, and they had 14 different cases. Some of the cases were ruled in favor of the state. Some there was quite a few that were still listed as in progress, and some of them, the lawsuit was completed and dismissed. So our next article to read, Teacher Evaluation and Issue Overview. It first talked about why teacher evaluation is in the spotlight. They gave us 4 factors. There's new research on what it takes to be a quality teacher. There's been philanthropy interest in boosting teacher effectiveness. Advocacy groups and policymakers have been revamping the laws surrounding teacher evaluation, and there is increased pressure in dismissing poor or ineffective teachers. So then they went into how the new systems work. The new systems, they're more complex. It's not just a checklist anymore. There are several components that go into the evaluation systems now. It weighs heavy on periodic examinations, and one thing that has really been forced in putting it into is the VAM models. The VAM models have been challenged a lot by teachers' unions. They were in a lot of those court cases. And then, is it working? Like, is our new system working? Preliminary data shows that teachers have a high rating. They also have high quality feedback. They boost their student scores. And so, what also has been noticed with the new system, teachers that are on the edge of being dismissed because of poor ratings, or even receiving a bonus, having that tied to it, has pulled their scores for the next school year. But teacher evaluation is going to still remain one of those hot topics that it'll continue to be in the news. The third reading that we had was a resource guide from the NEA that was created by NEA leaders and staff. It started talking about today's reality of teacher evaluations, long debated by policymakers. Things like Race to the Top came from it, that we're going to give incentives to schools that improve. And then they describe 6 key principles for developing or reforming your evaluation system. The first, safe and open collaboration. Measures have to be should be based on multiple ratings and clear teaching standards. Your evaluation system has to be integrated, it has to make sense. Validated evaluation measures are essential to having an effective one. Teachers should have input and be part of the process of developing and designing and implementing even new evaluation processes. And then the systems that are put in place, it should have input from the local teacher associations. This reading also gave many examples of what an effective teacher and what effective teaching should look like. It's not just but there's not a set in stone definition or example. Just like we talk about how every student is different, every teacher is different, and they have their own personalities. and their own methods for teaching. With multiple measures for being effective, you should have 3 kinds of evidence. You should see growth in student learning, teacher performance assessments, and standard-based teacher evaluations, and then systematic collection of evidence. So having that proof that teachers are effective. In this reading, they also talked about the VAM models, controversy with the VAM models. It's less when you use a VAM as a formative evaluation designed to inform, and not when you're using the VAMs just specifically as your only tool to evaluate teachers. The 4th reading, teacher evaluation measures and system. This was a research brief. Evaluations, they looked at evaluations that use both teaching and learning. They looked at 5 comprehensive teacher evaluation systems and saw that they share 3 features that make them effective. They create a linked and integrated system. They connected, which means they connect other elements in the education system. They have validated evaluation measures. The measures are credible, they're meaningful, and they improve upon teaching. And then all of the systems establish a sense of credibility, inclusive in all elements of the evaluation process, and you gain trust and buy-in from teachers, which is key. If the teachers don't trust the evaluation system that is being used on them, you're not going to have that buy-in. With this article, it talked about using evaluation to improve student learning. Evaluation should be a learning tool. It should be something that teachers should learn from and gain better skills and better knowledge of being more effective teachers. For my district at Wilson, our system is called E4E. The teachers are notified through an email but from our principal when they are up for evaluation, when with either 2 evaluations in the year or 1 evaluation of the year. My principal likes to let the teacher that has to have 2 pick the day and the time. They stay for the entire lesson or the entire hour. Our district is K through 12, and so with the elementary teachers, he stays for the entire lesson, and then for us in the junior high and high school, he stays for the entire hour. And then complete the form on E4E, and then my principal will schedule a conference with the teacher that he evaluated to discuss the positives that he saw in the classroom as well as the negatives, and they can kind of like debrief from that. If a teacher in my school believes that their evaluation is inaccurate or they need to take recourse based on what was done, our district has us all sign our evaluations, and in the evaluation, in what we're signing, it says that we're just signing and acknowledging that we received this evaluation, but it doesn't specifically say that we agree with what is on the paper. And so we sign it to say, yes, we received it, but it's not, our signatures are not to say that we agree with it. And so if we don't agree with it, what the teacher can do is write a rebuttal to the evaluation and basically explain his or her side and why they believe that the evaluation isn't accurate or unjust or anything like that. Again, I was talking to my principal about this because I did not know what teachers were to do if they felt they were unjustly let go. The teachers that have been fired from the school district that I currently work at and I've been working at for the last 7 years, we've only had 2 or 3 teachers in the time that I've been there get fired, and all of their, in my personal opinion, were valid, and I don't believe any of them took any recourse. So if a teacher is in a probationary period, it's kind of like every job. If you can't meet the expectations, there's really nothing you can do. You were on probation, you're on a trial basis. If it's a teacher that has been there a while, we don't necessarily have tenure, but there is the due process procedure that they can go through. Whether or not they will keep their job is another story, but there is the due process procedure that they can go through. For the legal cases, I found a legal case. It was kind of interesting to me. It was Doe v. Antioch. It was a legal case that was brought about by an advocacy group, and the advocacy group was Student Matters. They brought the case against the 13 school districts in California to get the school districts to use test scores as part of teacher evaluation. The evaluation system, according to what I read for California, they use the evaluation rules from the law from, I believe it was 1971, which did not necessarily specify that scores had to be used. And so the advocacy group Student Matters brought this case against these 13 schools in California. The California Superior Court ruled in favor of the districts. They did not change it, or they didn't see the need for adding, like making it a legal thing. This case, I believe, was settled in 2016 from what I read. And it kind of makes sense to me that the California Superior Court would rule in favor of the districts, because there had been other cases from that first article we read where they hadn't ruled in favor of any of the courts, and they had any of the people bringing about against the states, and so the states were winning, and so it makes sense if they used previous courts as well. And the last question for this module: what will I do to make sure that legal things are not necessarily brought up against my school or against me? I think the first thing you have to do as a principal is to follow district protocol. You have to go to the handbook, you have to go to the teacher handbook and see what are the steps, what am I as the principal supposed to do. When it comes to performing evaluations, I think you need to be open-minded. In my opinion, as principals, you have to understand that not every class, not every lesson, we've all been there. We've all had those lessons that just completely fall apart. As a teacher, I love trying new things, but it doesn't always go off like I think it's going to. I can plan it all out, but it doesn't always work. So I think as a principal, you need to be open-minded to that fact that sometimes it just doesn't go how the teacher thinks it's going to go. And I put on here, use common sense, because I feel like with legal trouble, you can keep yourself out of legal trouble in general if you use common sense. And I think with being a principal and performing evaluations on staff members and teachers, just use your common sense. And then finally, document. If there is a teacher in my school when I'm a principal that I believe, and many people have brought to my attention, that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I would start documenting when people come to me, documenting what I see, having other teachers document. It's the one thing that I've learned as a teacher, that if you want something done, you got to document it. You want change, you got to document it. It doesn't matter if it's the thing I document most a lot of the times is student behavior. Like if we have an incident in my shop or my classroom, you document. And so I think as a principal, another thing, if you know that you have a teacher that is been brought to your attention that is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, therefore they're not being effective teachers, you have to start documenting. When you have that documented proof, then you're going to avoid the legal processes. So thank you for watching. Again, I'm so sorry about my voice. It's just one of those things that happens when you work with kids. I think we all know that. So thank you again for watching.